have another box. Another big box of books. Except half of them have come from Chapters and half of them have come from Book Outlet. I'm just gonna go dive right into it, really. I am gonna take this time before the book haul to tell you about my book wrap up because I read one book in July, one book that I finished, and that was The Summer That Melted Everything by Tiffany McDaniel. I have a review up, and also if you really want to hear me talk about the books that I read in July, nothing has changed from my booktube without a wrap up. So let's just get started. I'm just gonna pick up the first book that I have in my pile. Is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I have been hearing about this. This is a new release from Schwab and I've heard about it. It's got a lot of things about good and evil, so I'm interested to see how this book is. I'm really hoping I like it, especially I love conversations of what constitutes good and what constitutes evil and things of that nature. Oh look, we have another Schwab book. This is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. One of my chapters trips, I got 3 Schwab books. There's another one in this pile. I don't know where it is in this pile, but there's another one. But yeah, I've heard a lot of Vicious from V.E. Schwab. A lot of people have liked this, and so I've kind of been in this weird position where I read A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab and I enjoyed it, but I just haven't really had the urge to continue to read any of her works. I don't know why, but I've just heard a lot of people, I think it's because it's word hype. A lot of people are like V.E. Schwab, Victoria Schwab, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, I'll pick it up when I pick it up. My brain is just weird. But the concept of the book seems interesting enough for me to pick it up. I didn't just pick it up because a lot of people are like, hey, you should read this. Next, I have 3 books. I have the Looking Glass Trilogy I got from Book Outlet. So, if I can put these books into order. All 3 of these were available in paperback. It's a complete trilogy, so I'm like, hey, they're all gonna match. So I have, and this is by Frank Bedore. So we have The Looking Glass Wars, Seeing Red, and Arch Enemy. So this is kind of like a Alice in Wonderland kind of book, except Alice is, I believe, heir to the throne, and her aunt is called Red. So it's a little different take on the Alice in Wonderland Looking Glass story. So I hope that I can pick this up and read it because it sounds pretty interesting. Next, I have Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay. This I have heard a lot of people, well, not a lot of people that I trust their opinions on, and if they really love this book, I believe I'm gonna really love this book as well. This is kind of like a Jane Eyre story, but not really, but it's about a girl named Jane Steele who becomes a serial killer, but in a very Dexter way, I think. This cover is pretty, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it, so I hope to get this soon so I can share in the joy that is Jane Steele. Plus, I heard it's been optioned for a movie, so that must mean it's been really good. Next, I have The Sacred Lives of Minnow Bly by Stephanie Oakes. This is about a girl who is in a cult, and the prophet or cult leader is dead, and she has got maybe something to do with it, and she's maybe has no hands because they've taken those from her, and it's all about like maybe working with the FBI, and it's the whole cult thing. I am interested when I'm into more of like a mystery type book. Next, I have The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Atteberry. This is the second and final book in the duology of, like, the first one is The Wrath and the Dawn. So I have both books now and I can just read them back to back. Just going through the motions. Here's another book that I've heard about, and that is Homegoing by Ya Jassy. This is a diasporic narrative fiction book that I originally heard Joss from Scribble Reads talk about, and I find it very interesting. It really speaks to my anthropology background of learning about diasporic communities. This is a generational book, so it goes through the generations of, there's two sisters or two half-sisters. One becomes the wife of someone prominent and the other one's a slave. So it's the divergence of those two families, I think, and just where everyone ends up. This next book is heavy. It's Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld, and this is a book about an author who writes a book, but it's about, like, so part of the story takes place from the author's point of view, and then some of the story takes place from the character's point of view that she has created. You can see different chapters here, but this book is heavy. It's been made out of some dense paper. This is a hefty book. It's weird. It's weighty. But I really enjoyed Zeros by Scott Westerfeld, and there's other authors on that book as well, so hopefully I will like more of his books. Next, I have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I have, again, heard a lot of things about this and really there are a lot of books that I've heard about recently that I really want to get, and so I got them, and I really want to read them. So I need to get my butt into gear and actually read the books. But this is like sci-fi-ish. I've heard it has a lot of like Farscape Firefly feels, and I'm all about that. Especially for the Farscape one. That I heard someone compare this to a bit of like a Farscape feel, and I was like, really? Because I love Farscape. This next book is another white book, so it's gonna put the white balance off again. But I have A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. This is the second book in the Shades of Magic trilogy, I believe it is. Is it a trilogy or is it 4 books? I don't recall. I think it's only 3 books, but I got A Darker Shade of Magic last year, and I have to make sure to remember to get books that I got the first book into hardback and the second book, because otherwise I'd be waiting for the paperback and then my books would not match. What did I say? Basically, I got A Darker Shade of Magic in hardback, so I had to get A Gathering of Shadows in hardback so that they match. Because I make decisions. Next, I have The School of Good and Evil by Sowen Shinani. This is a middle grade book about 2 girls that go to 2 different schools. One's for good, one's for evil, but they have thought they were going to a certain school, but really they're going to the other school. So that is an interesting concept. I've heard a lot of people talk about this on BookTube, so it's one of those things where everyone's talking about it, so eventually I'll get to it kind of thing. Oh, there's still more books, guys. There's still more books. Next, I have Legacy of Kings by Eleanor Herman. This is an Alexander the Great retelling. This is the new covers that have been released for these. It's different from the one that was originally released for this book, but it matches the second book, but I'm gonna now wait for the second book to come out in paperback, which is like next year, because I have this in paperback. It's a nice floppy book. Next, I got The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North, and I will say, spoiler alert for August's book wrap-up, I finished it this month in August. So, yeah, I read most of this in July, but I have finished it in August, and I absolutely loved this book so much. Sorry, I finished it last night, and I was just like, 5 stars. It's a book that you have to take your time with because it is very detailed in the fact that hundreds of years have been lived in this book. Let's just put it that way. The basic synopsis of this book is that Harry August discovers that once he has died from his first life, he is born again in his exact same life, but he remembers his past life that he lived. So he's living the same life over and over again and accumulating all the knowledge that he has learned over the years. And I really like that concept. And then there's things that happen in the book that was really cool, and I really enjoy this book, and Claire North is becoming one of my favorite authors, I guess. I definitely want to get to the other book that I've heard of where, I forget what it's called, but it's like the girl, like once she's out of the room, nobody remembers her kind of thing. So very interested in that. I have to get it. I don't know what it's called, but I've heard about it. She just writes really interesting characters. Next is a book I have been trying to get my hands on for a long time, and that is Shades of Milk and Honey by Mary Repinette Cowell. This is like a Regency era type book, like Pride and Prejudice era, but with some magic. So there's that. I heard about this book from Hank Green, of all people. Hank Green. And it's been on my radar for a couple years, since before I learned about BookTube, and I finally got my hands on it. Next we have The Devil's Detective by Simon Kurt Unsworth. This I got because I got Something More Than Night by Ian Tregillis, and this is something a little similar-ish in the fact that it's like a detective mystery type book, but this one takes place in hell, where there's a detective, but you know, people get killed in hell all the time, sort of. It's weird, but yeah. Detective, hell's detective. There's the devil's detective. It's an interesting mystery, I think. This next book has one of my buzzwords on it, which is why I got it, and that is The Time Travelers by Linda Buckley Archer. This is book 1 in the Gideon trilogy, and it was previously published as Gideon and the Cut Purse. This is about a couple of children that have time traveled and things happen. So if someone says for kids who love Harry Potter, I believe this is middle grade-ish, young adult. There are 3 books. It's got time travel in the title, so that's ought to be fun. Oh my god, we're at the last book. And again, this is gonna mess with the white balance of this. I should really just set the white balance and not have it on automatic. I should have this on manual, to be honest. But I have it on automatic because I've been lazy about changing my ISO and stuff. Okay, so I have Wolf in White Van by John Darnielle. And this I got because I read about the plot, and it's text-based roleplay games, which is what I initially started with roleplay games, is text-based roleplay games, though it was on an online forum rather than a system that's played in through the mail, which I'm interested to see how that works. But yeah, I've been really into Dungeons and Dragons lately, even though I don't have a group myself to play. I do watch a group of people play D&D online, and so roleplay games, stuff like that has this in it. And I can hear some of you saying, hey, you included your July wrap-up, but there was a book you did not include in that wrap-up. Why? And that is Winter by Marissa Meyer. I have read about 89 pages this month of Winter. I have read a little bit of Winter. It's just, July was kind of like a slumpish month where I was not reading a whole bunch of great books, and yes, I could have picked Winter up, but I just haven't been in a reading mood, and I'm making excuses, I know. And for August, there's just a lot of other books I want to get to, but I am going to slowly but surely make my way through Winter. It's becoming ridiculous. I'm just not in the mood for it right now, and I'm very much a mood reader at times. So, yeah. Anyway, that is my super long book haul for July. Well, thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!